in managing on national security. Nigerian national security involves, we said, a combination of strategic frameworks, policies, tools, and technologies. In managing national security, we said it involves a combination of strategic frameworks, policies, tools, and technology. Like we have been mentioning on every fora or on each of our engagement, the essence of managing national security is to what? To protect our nation's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the citizens. Managing national security, we said, involves a combination of strategic frameworks, policies, tools, and technologies. And we ask ourselves, what is the essence of managing national security? We always make assertion that national security is managed so as to protect our nation's sovereignty, territorial integrity, as well as citizens. So, like I've mentioned at the beginning of this lecture, that we are going to look at the tools and avenues used in national security management. We are going to look at what? The tools and avenues used in managing our national security. Number one, tools. Number one, legislation and policy framework. Legislation and policy framework. This is the number one tools and avenue. Legislation and policy framework. So, under legislation and policy framework, we picked about 3 items there. Number one is strategies, national security strategy. In number one, tools or avenue, that is legislation and policy framework, we identify 3 items there, where we say number one is national security strategies. And what is this national security strategies? National security strategies is nothing but a comprehensive document outlining security objectives and approaches. Every nation must have its national security strategies. In fact, like developing countries or advanced countries, every administration that comes normally reviewed their own national security strategies. So, under number one tools or avenue, which is legislation and policy framework, the first item there is what? National security strategy. And we said national security strategies is nothing but a comprehensive document outlining security objectives and approaches. The 2 items there has to do with defense policies. The first item is national security strategies. The second item there is defense policy guidelines for military readiness and defense spending. The second item under legislation and policy framework is defense policies. And what is that defense policies? Defense policies are guidelines for military readiness and defense spending. Then the third item there is counterterrorism policies. Counterterrorism policies. And what contained in counterterrorism policies are strategies to prevent and that can be used to respond to terrorist threats. Counterterrorism policies are strategies for prevention as well as responding to terrorist threats. So our first tool in managing our national security, we say legislation and policy framework. Under legislation and policy framework, we have identified three components. The first one, we say national security strategy. National security strategy, we say, is a comprehensive document that outlines our security objectives as well as approaches. Then the second component there, we say defense policies. And we say defense policies, nothing other than guidelines for military readiness and defense spending. Then the third component here we say counterterrorism policies. And these are strategies for prevention as well as response to terrorist threats. The second tool in managing our national security is military tools. Military tools. The first one is legislation and policy framework. The second tool is military tools. Under the military tools too, we have identified three components there. One, our armed forces. Our armed forces. When we talk about armed forces, automatically we are talking about our regular and reserve military forces. Our regular and reserve military forces. In the case of Nigeria, honestly, apart from the regular forces, issue of reserve is only on paper. It's only on paper. So the last review that we had, sometimes end of 2002, that there is need for us to reactivate the reserve aspect of our armed forces. But up to now, I don't think the implementation has been started. So that's the first component under military tools, armed forces. And our armed forces, we say our regular forces and reserve military. So normally military are used for what? For protection of our what? Our territorial integrity, external aggression, assistance to civil authority. At the same time, military component serves as a deterrence. Military serve as what? Deterrence. The second component under military tools is intelligence agencies. The second tools is intelligence agencies. And what are those intelligence agencies? Is the organization such as the DSS, although it's SSS, by their constitutional connotation is SSS, State Security Services. We have SSS, we have DIA, which is Defense Intelligence Agency, we have NIA, which is National Intelligence Agency. Apart from the intelligence agencies that are attached to some of our military armed forces as well as paramilitary forces, all these agencies have some units or departments that are what? In charge of intelligence. Then the third component under military tools, we have cyber command. Cyber commands are normally units that focuses on defending against cyber threats and conducting cyber operations as well. We have cyber command. Cyber command, like we said, are units or departments that normally focuses on defending against cyber threats and conducting cyber operations. Under the tools of managing national security, we say number one, we have legislation and policy framework where we mentioned the three components that include national security strategy, defense policy, counterterrorism policies. Then the second tools, we said military tools that involve A, the armed forces, which we say is the regular armed forces, and then the reserve. Then the intelligence agency, where we cited example with DSS, NIA, DIA, and individuals, intelligence agencies that are domiciled within our armed forces and other and sub armed forces. Then we have cyber command. We said those are units or departments of those intelligence agencies that focuses on defending against cyber threats and conducting cyber operation. The third tools here is intelligence gathering and analysis. If you remember our third lecture, we have mentioned methods of or different types of what? Gathering intelligence agencies. Can you people remember where we mentioned about human intelligence, we mentioned about signal intelligence, we mentioned about imagery and geospatial intelligence, we mentioned about open source. So we are not going back, or we are not wasting time on this, because already we have discussed that aspect. So that is the third tools in what? In managing national security. That is methods of intelligence gathering and analysis. If you remember, we mentioned human intelligence, the signal intelligence, the imaginary and geospatial intelligence, open source intelligence. Then the fourth tools in managing our national security is through diplomacy and international relations. Through what? Through diplomacy and international relations. Here too, we have identified about two major components there. The first component has to do with alliances and treaties. Alliances and treaties. Alliances and treaties. And what is alliances and treaties? We have discussed yesterday on that aspect too. Collaboration between two or more nations to advance their what? To advance their national interests. Where we cited example within the international cycle, we made mention about what? NATO. We made mention about United Nations. Then in the case of Africa, that is at regional level, we talked about UN, that is, AU, African Union. So these are what? We made mention about multilateral joint task force that involve Chad, Nigeria, and Cameroon in their what? Course to enhance their fight against terrorism. That one has its own headquarters in Chad. So the second has to do with diplomatic engagement. Diplomatic engagement. So that's the second component. That is the B aspect. So what is that diplomatic engagement? It also has to do with engaging with one another. Nations engaging with one another to mitigate conflict and enhance their cooperation. We say when nations at least cooperate or form alliances, they do what? It enhances their fighting against transnational crimes, against proliferation of small arms and light weapons, against infiltration of terrorist groups, against it assists them in at least curtailing money laundering and human trafficking as well. So we said in the tools for managing our national security, one, we talked about legislation and policy framework, where we made mention about three components that we picked that are involved. That is the national security strategies, with the defense policy guidelines, the defense policy, the third one, counterterrorism policy. The second tools, we said military tools. Under military tools too, we have identified three components: the armed forces, our intelligence agencies, the third one, we say cyber command. Then the third one, which earlier we have discussed in our third lecture, has to do with intelligence gathering and analysis, where that is has to do with tools we use in gathering our intelligence and analysis, where we made mention about human intelligence, signal intelligence, imaginary and geospatial intelligence, then open source. Then the fourth tools we say is diplomacy and international relations, where we have identified two key components. The first one, which is A, we say alliances and treaties. We cited examples with at the international listing, we have organizations like NATO. Within our regional listing, we have AU, we have multinational joint task force domicile in Chadi. Then the second aspect, which is the B, we say is diplomatic engagement, where nations engage with one another to mitigate conflict and enhance their cooperation, whereby it facilitates their national security objectives. We said it reduces the infiltration of transnational criminals. We say it limits proliferation of small arms, light weapons, and the rest. Then the fifth tools used in managing national security has to do with law enforcement and domestic security. The fifth one has to do with what? Law enforcement and domestic security. So, law enforcement and domestic security, there too, we have identified about three major components. The first one is police and federal agencies. Police and other federal agencies. Basically, the primary mandate of law enforcement in Nigeria are who? Police. They are the lead security agencies when it comes to internal security. We have Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps too. You can as well include other paramilitary agencies too, like particularly the DSS that are responsible for domestic threats, and crimes when it comes to issue of security. Then the second component of law enforcement and domestic security has to do with counterintelligence operations. In Nigeria, we have a lot of counterintelligence operational agencies that are working around the clock. If you go to the northeast, you find them there fighting Boko Haram. If you go to the southeast, you see them fighting those spreads that IPOP. So the third component, that is the C, is crisis management team. Crisis management teams are normally, they are intervention forces, normally for rapid response. They are rapid response unit for emergencies and disasters. Every nation must have crisis management team. So normally it's a combination of all the security agencies that they will now form a team to be known as rapid response unit for emergencies and disasters. When we talk of emergencies, emergencies can be flooding, emergencies, you know, like wildfire and other emergencies. So the fifth tools is cybersecurity measures. Cybersecurity measures.
Fifth or sixth, sir?
Six. The first one is legislation and policy framework. The second tools is military tools. The third one is intelligence gathering and analysis. The fourth one is diplomacy and international relations. Hello? Hello?
Hi,
I
sir.
hear you, sir.
If somebody is asking whether it is fifth or sixth, that means he must have lost somewhere. That's why I'm asking. Oh, are you
Fifth.
okay?
That's what.
Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
We, we lost you
Okay.
there a
So
bit.
You,
I lost you there a bit. I couldn't hear you. I just got you back now, sir.
okay, so fine. Then
Number number six, sir. That's what I didn't get.
number 6, cybersecurity measures. The sixth tool is cyber security measures.
Sorry, sir. This law enforcement and domestic security, can we
Mm.
say under C, crisis management team? Can we say NEMA too is part of it?
They are part, they are all part.
Okay.
I told you it involves a lot of agencies.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yes, all the
Okay.
agencies that are involved in emergencies. We have
Okay.
fire service, we have
Yeah.
NEMA, we have SEMA. Look,
Okay.
uncountable. We have disease control unit. Just name them. We have a lot.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Mm. So cybersecurity measures, which is our what? Number 6 tools. So at least ICT students amongst you can be able to assist us in that regard. But from our residual knowledge, I know we have firewalls and intrusion detection system. Normally, that is what we normally use, in protecting our critical infrastructure from cyber attack. I want to believe up to now, that is, I've not heard if there are any new dynamics as regards to cybersecurity measures. The first one is always firewalls and intrusion detection system, which normally used in what? In protecting our critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. Then the second component there has to do with what? Cybersecurity policies. If you remember, we made mention about issue of ethical consideration. Can some of you remember where we talk about there must be policy guidelines regulating practices and regulation to protect both the information as well as what? To protect citizens from what?
From attacks, sir.
From
Not
cyber
attack.
attacks.
From intruding into their privacy. Have you people forgotten? You get my point? Because you have right
Yes,
to your
sir.
privacy. So every cybersecurity policy that should be that will be deployed must have a guidelines regulating the practices and the protocol, so that at least it can be able to protect what? Your privacy. Then, so under cybersecurity measures, we have two components: the firewalls and intrusion detection system, which we said normally deploy to protect our critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. Then the second component, which is the B, we say cybersecurity policies. And cybersecurity policies are guidelines regulating practices and protocols in order to protect information system as well as intrusion to, people's privacy, that is citizens' privacy. Then the 7 tools is economic tools. Economic tools. You have been hearing a lot of sanctions placed on Russia, placed on Iran, Can you remember?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So these are exactly what we are talking about: sanctions and trade restriction. So under economic tools, we have sanctions and trade restriction. Typical example: America and European countries have placed what? A lot of sanctions on Russia because of their war with what? With Ukraine. There are a lot of sanctions on North Korea. There are a lot of sanctions on Iran. Even of recent, Nigeria and ECOWAS countries has placed some sanctions against which country? Who can remind us?
Niger.
Niger. So these are sanctions and what? And trade restriction. And those sanctions and trade restriction can be on who? Can be on individuals, can be on entities or nations. If you remember, Libya, Iraq, even the Russia of recent, some individuals too, Americans and European countries has placed some sanctions against their businesses and against their individuals too. At the same time, they can use economic aid and developmental programs. Although, like me, I always tell you, most of the aid coming from America and Europe, I don't trust those ones, like you said, and other things. So, but if you want to take it from the face value, they always tell you that those economic aid, and developmental program is for our own progress. So that's the second aspect under economic tools. We have sanction and trade restriction, then we have economic aid and developmental program that they always tell us that they bring also program to address poverty, they bring also program, for empowerment, they bring this forward to do this, say, yeah. So then the aid tools has to do with public health and safety. Number 8 tools that use in managing national security is public health and safety. If you remember some of the emergencies we had in the country or globally, we have COVID-19. COVID-19, these are emergencies. We have flood in Borno some few months back. These are what? These are emergencies. So basically, there are two key components of public health and safety, under public health and safety. One is biosecurity measures. Anything you hear bio has to do with living things, has to do with living things. So biosecurity measures. These are measures always advanced in protecting against biological threats. Biological threats. We gave an example with what? With COVID-19 pandemic. Then the B component has to do with disaster preparedness. These are plans and infrastructure that can be articulated to respond to natural disasters and crises too. We gave typical example of that, what happened in Borno of recent. These are disasters.
Is it disaster
Then
what,
number
sir?
9, you say?
What's the second word?
We say disaster preparedness. Where we say is planned and infrastructure that has been developed to respond to natural disasters and crises. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Good. So number 9, tools number 9 that is used in managing our national security is technological resources. Technological resources. Technological resources. For those of you that are very much familiar with ICT, we use technology for surveillance, for data analysis, and the rest. So under technological resources too, we have two components. One is what we call surveillance system. Surveillance system. And you agree with me that most of the security agencies now, including emergency or disaster management agencies, all have what we call surveillance system, where they use it for monitoring. Then the second component has to do with data analytics. Data analytics, that is using technology in identify, and analyzing data so that potential security threats can easily be detected. Potential security threats can easily be detected. And once you detect, what do you do next? Is to see how you can mitigate. So number 9, under technological resources as a tool for managing national security, we have the surveillance system, which we say is used for monitoring. Then B, we have data analytics that we said is used to identify and analyze potential security threats. Number 10 tools is what we call community engagement and education. Community engagement and education is also a tool that is used in managing national security. There too, we made mention, or we identify 2 key components there. One, public awareness campaign. Public awareness campaign. The first component there, which is the A, is public awareness campaign. Normally, public awareness campaign is a forum or a platform where we normally use in educating our citizens on threats, whether threats of diseases, threat of terrorism, threat of cybercrime, and so many. Then the second component there is collaboration with non-governmental organizations as well as non-state actors. The second component there has to do with collaboration with non-governmental organizations as well as non-state actors. So, we normally partner with NGOs and other non-state actors to assist in capacity building and training of communities. The last tool that we are going to look at here has to do with resilience and recovery planning. Resilience and recovery planning. Resilience and recovery planning. Under resilience and recovery planning, we have 2 key components too. A, that is continuity of operation plan. And what is continuity in operation plan? Under security, it means you should not allow any services, essential services, to stop. Whatever possible, you try as much as possible to make sure that essential services continues, like water, supply of water, supply of electricity, health care facilities, and the rest. Then the P aspect of it has to do with emergency response plan, which already we discussed. Clearly outlining actions to take in event of emergencies. And every emergency has its own protocol. So therefore, you must prepare in anticipation of those emergencies. So therefore, if you combine all these 11 tools and mechanisms, you realize that a country will have a multifaceted approach to its national security, whereby it will develop its own capacity in addressing threats and challenges at various levels and across different domains. Therefore, in conclusion, we can say effective management of national security needs what? It requires collaboration across government sectors, private, so as to what? So as to build a secure and protected state. So let us go back and recap. We say for effective management of national security, you need what? You need some tools. And avenues. So therefore, we say national security management involves a combination of strategic frameworks, policies, tools, and technologies. And a combination of these that are normally used to protect nation sovereignty, territorial integrity, as well as citizens, where we went further to identify individual tools. We have identified so far up to 11. The first one, we talked about legislation and policy framework, where we identified 3 major components there. The A1, we say national security strategies, where we say it's a comprehensive document outlining the security objectives as well as approaches. Then the second component, which is the B, we say is defense policies. And that defense policies are just guidelines for military readiness and defense spending. Then the third component under legislation and policy framework is counterterrorism policies. And we say these are strategies that are used to prevent and respond to terrorist threats. Then the second tools, we identify military tools. And we say military tools has 3 major components too. The A1, we say armed forces. And that armed forces, we say both our regular and reserve military forces. And we reminded ourselves that military forces are used to what? to protect our territorial integrity, to prevent external aggression, assist civil authority as well. Then the second component we say has to do with our intelligence agencies. In the case of foreign, we have CIA, you know, and the rest. In the case of Nigeria, we have SSS, we have NIA, we have DIA. Then the third component, which is C, we say cyber command. We say normally all the security agencies has a unit or department that focuses on defending against cyber threats and conducting cyber operation for that nation. Then the third tools we say is intelligence gathering and analysis, which we dealt with it during our third lecture, where we identify, means or methods of collecting our intelligence, where we may mention about human intelligence, signal intelligence, imaginary or geospatial intelligence, open sources intelligence. Then the fourth tools is diplomacy and international relations. Under diplomacy and international relations, we identify two key components there. A, we say the alliances and treaties. That is, we say this one has to do with what? Building coalitions, or coming together. We cited an example with NATO within an international system. In the case of Africa, we mentioned about Africa Union. We made mention about multinational joint task force. Then the B component, we talked about diplomatic engagement, where we say engaging with one or two or more nations to mitigate conflicts and enhance cooperation, where we cited a lot of benefits of this diplomatic engagement, where nations comes together. We said it enhanced national security by mitigating transnational crimes, by infiltration of terrorists, by mitigating human trafficking and proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and the rest. Then the fifth tools, we talked about law enforcement and domestic security. We cited a typical example of Nigeria police force. They are the lead agency when it comes to enforcement of laws. At the same time, internal security. But at the same time, we talked about the SSS that assist, in domestic threats. Then the second component there, we talked about counterintelligence operation. That is efforts by various security agencies to tout espionage and protect our sensitive information. Then the third component there, we say crisis management theme, like rapid response unit for emergencies and disaster. We talked about NEMA, we talked about SEMA and other fire services and other emergencies response agencies. Then the fifth tools, we talked about cybersecurity measures, where I said up to now, there are major two issues involved under security, the cybersecurity measures. The first one is the usage of firewalls and intrusion detection system, whereby we use that one to protect our critical infrastructure from cyber attack. Then the second we talked about, the second component is cybersecurity policies, where we say for you to deploy cybersecurity policies, you must have a clear guidelines regulating the practices and protocols. Apart from protecting information system, it can as well protect fundamental human rights against abuses. Then the second tools, we mentioned about economic tools. Under economic tools, we identified two major components. The first one, we say sanctions and trade restriction. We gave a lot of examples of where economic sanctions and trade restriction was, imposed. We talked about Libya, we talked about Iraq, we talked about Russia, we talked about Iran, and so many countries. Then economic aid and development program that they normally said they use it to support our developmental program to reduce poverty, for enlightenment, for empowerment, and this and that. Then the eight tools, we talked about public health and safety, where we identified two components too, the biosecurity measures as well as disaster preparedness. The biosecurity measures, we said, theoretically has to do with protecting against biological threats and pandemics. We gave example of corona, COVID-19, and the rest, the disaster preparedness. We gave example with the latest one that happened in Nigeria, that is flood in Borno State. Then the nine tools has to do with technological resources. That's the nine tools. There too, we identified two elements: the surveillance system, which is normally used for monitoring, as well as data analytics that is used, to analyze data so as to identify and analyze potential security threats. Then the third tools that is used in national security has to do with community engagement and education. We talked about some of the major elements there. A, we say public awareness campaign that has to do with what? Educating our citizens on threats such as terrorism and cyber crimes. Then the second one has to do with collaboration with NGOs and non-governmental organizations, that is for community resilience and programs. Then the last one, we identify resilience and recovery planning. What we are saying in essence with resilience and recovery planning tools is during emergencies that there must be continuity of operational plan. And what is that operation plan? Is to be sure that essential services are not cut off. We talked about water supply, electricity supply, and the rest. Then the emergency response plan. For every nation must have a plan in how to respond to various forms of emergencies. So we say all in all, that combination of these tools provide us with what? With multifaceted approach in managing our national security. So automatically, when you manage your national security, you are addressing threats and challenges at various levels. So we said for effective management of our national security, all these tools and avenues must be established, must be collaborated, you know. Uh-huh. So questions, addition, observations. From the students. Hello.
We're here,
Hi,
sir.
sir.
Reading you loud and clear,
Observation,
sir.
addition. You say?
Yeah, with you, sir.
So I'm waiting for you now. Me, I've done my small bit.
We are listening to you, sir. We are all with you, sir. Taking notes, sir.
So it's now time for questions, from for additional information, time for observations, and the rest. But the
Sir,
lecture is well understood.
yes, sir. Prof, sir,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may ask, sir,
Yes.
teaching security academics and working as a security man, they are
Mm.
two different. They are two different. They are two different situations, sir.
You say what?
I say working as a security man
Mm.
and taking class in academic field are
Mm.
two different lines.
What makes it different?
Because on the job, what you get on the job is different from what you get on the class.
How?
Now, practically, sir,
Yes.
all the things you have taught us,
Mm.
some implementable, some
Mm.
unimplementable. There are
Like
some
which one that is
situations,
not like which one is not implementable?
um, unimplementable. There are things your superior will tell you not to go into, like
You say?
reactive and proactive.
Eh.
There are some situations where you need to take a proactive security measure. But
Mm.
those who are supervising will say, let it be, let us take reactive measure. The crisis should happen, and you cannot avert it. So I think we're having crisis with academic plan for security job and those who practice it. I don't know what we
I,
can do to get
me,
out of that.
I don't think so, because me, I'm in practice. I'm in academics, in security, and I'm involved in all aspects of security, both the tactical, both the operational, both the strategic, as well as policy level. I'm involved in all this, as well as academic. The, the
Prosper.
only challenge, the only challenge you tell me is most of our securities are not well developed their capacity. You get the point in terms of knowledge gaps, as well as equipment in addressing our security challenges. And like I want to tell you vividly, you see, issue of security is not majority the way we are looking at it from Nigerian perspective, because security is far, far more than what the so-called security agencies are doing. Because all what security agencies are doing are either they are enforcing laws, they are gathering intelligence, or they are intervening. But in the actual sense, it's not the mandate of the so-called security agencies that are responsible for provision of security. Because for you to understand this, you need to identify the real threat to security. And then there, you'll be able to find out who are those that are supposed to, provide solutions. A typical example, if you take police, police is there to enforce laws. If you take military, that is armed forces generally. Armed forces are there to what? As an intervention agency. Because their major mandate is to what? To stop external aggression. As well as what? Assistance to civil institution. If you take DSS, NIA, DIA, their own is to provide intelligence agencies. For what? For security solutions and strategies to be developed. So security on itself is a concept that people need to understand first. But unfortunately, majority of us, once they mention about security, somebody will start looking at where is police? Where is military? Where is SSS? So we take security in only the minute aspect of it. And that is why we are not getting it right. And that is why most of our policies are targeted at what? At intervention levels, but not solving the root causes, not solving the drivers, not mitigating the facilitators and the motivators of insecurity. So you can only solve insecurity when you identify the root causes of insecurity.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, sir.
So you need an in-depth knowledge of security before you be able to comprehend what is even this security. A lot of us take manifestations of insecurity as security, like kidnapping, like armed robbery, subversive actions, and the rest. So, in as long as we don't identify those root causes and we address them, the system will continue to give birth. To all these things. So we need to identify so that we address our solutions will be targeted to the root causes, will be targeted to the drivers. Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for how far we have gone today first. And from my own personal perspective, like what you have brought to bear to us is management of national security, a case in point Nigeria.
Yes.
And you have outlined the tools within a particular country to protect its territorial integrity. And I believe all the tools that you have mentioned here perfectly aligns with our existing agencies.
That is national security, yes.
Yes. So when the last person that spoke said it's not practical, I don't even understand where he was coming from. Is he attacking a particular tool? If he's attacking a particular tool, say technological resources, you mention, okay, this is the part. Because what you have just aligned today reflects our national security. All the prints, all the tools that have been outlined, the 11 tools are all existing within agencies. So if there was any concern, what I expected, okay, this particular one, because from what he said, the practical aspect and the class do not align. I quite did not agree with him.
Okay, no, I've understood what he's talking about. You didn't maybe grab, or he didn't make it clear. He's supposed to make it clear. But what he's saying, you see, within an organization, it can be any of the security agencies organization. You know, part of our major challenge in this country, you know, every operation has process and procedure. It has its own requirements for you to undertake. But majority of us, once you happen to find yourself in a vantage position, maybe as a DG or you are heading a department, you know, you are juniors. You do what you think you can do without taking cognizance of most of the process and procedures. At the same time, again, some elements like corruption, where things will be budgeted for, you know, equipments and other things that are supposed to be used. Somebody will just divert those ones and allow you to only use what the ordinary things that you have, but not the actual tools that are supposed to be used. And not that those provisions have not been made, but it has been made but somebody decide to divert. That is at that level. If you go to maybe legislation level, maybe the legislation, since they are responsible for allocations of funds, to buy some of these equipment and other things, because they don't know the importance, they will just wave it aside. So when an agency is looking for, just an example, 10 million, they may just decide to allocate 2 million for you. You see, from here, you have what? Budgetary constraint. So in all this, you cannot be able to what? Effectively and efficiently execute your mandate. So what he's saying, a lot of operatives are carrying out operations without the requisite equipment and even the knowledge. How many agencies do develop capacity of the operatives? A provision will be made for you to go for, exposure. Unfortunately, somebody will go and organize 1 or 2 people somewhere and deny you that exposure. So I want to believe what he's talking about is limitations. Limitations. I don't know. I'm not speaking with him. If is what he meant, fine. If not, so let him give us exactly his own points so that we can be able to look at it objectively.
Prof, thank you very much, sir. You have spoken exactly where I need to, like you see, um, will
Yeah.
in this our security architecture, and we have what is called political will to
Yeah.
do something.
Yes.
You cannot tell me that they want to keep people in Bokos, that there is no intelligence. There are intelligence.
Yes.
All the tools have been deployed, but yet these things still happen.
Yes.
That is why I said, practically, sir, these tools are there. We see them. I had the privilege to be trained by American experts this year, and they asked us a question. As at that time, I was the superintendent of police. They asked me if I can deploy an helicopter in the Nigerian police force. I told them a commissioner of police in the state cannot even deploy a helicopter. The AIG cannot deploy a helicopter. It is only the inspector general of police that has the capacity to deploy a helicopter for use for operation. So there are some constraints and political will. You cannot say River State now. Somebody said there is crisis. There will be bombing of pipe. There will be bombing of this. And some persons who are Navy officers, police officers, civil defense, are they not supposed to secure the pipeline? Are the tools not there? Are the drones not there? The drones are there. All the machineries are there. But these things still happen. So there are the political will has limited us. As I am today, if as I have a mandate, the Inspector General of Police has gotten a directive from somewhere that is more superior. Say, go and arrest this prof. And the Inspector General of Police directs me, say, go and arrest this prof. I will move. But on my own, discretionally now, they say, go and arrest this prof. And I know if I go and arrest this prof have a strong political will somewhere. Will I move? I will not move. That is why I said, sir, that academics and security, sir. I am because I am trying to match both of them, because they will tell you in security, they'll say, don't do as you are taught, do as you meet them on the field. In security, like you said, you are the strategic, tactical, operational. You are there for us, sir. But I tell you, sir, there are things you go and do. You get yourself involved in problem. Practically, let me.
So, no, I've understood what they are saying. Is your presentation that I want to believe it still has to do with what? It has to do with our limitations. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
not that the academics and then the operational is different. Yes, academic give you guidelines and other things. And maybe when you go on the field, at times, what you meet on the field will dictate to the kind of strategy you deploy. You get my point? But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
what you are saying is institutional limitations.
Thank you very much, sir. And
Eh,
individual limitation.
that
Individual
is
limitation, sir.
because individuals govern, make up the institution now.
Thank you very much,
So
sir. Prof. God
when you
bless you.
have institutional limitations, it's individuals. It's a
Thank you.
combination of limitations of individuals that becomes what? Institutional limitations.
Yes, sir.
Because it's individuals that run the institutions.
Thank you
So
very much.
no, it's this thing. Any other this thing?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Observation?
I have a question, sir.
Yeah?
I have a question, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
In the case of Nigeria now, they have been
Yeah.
agitating for state police.
Mm, yeah.
Can that fall under legislation and policy framework?
Of course. Of course.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course. Because
Okay.
it's a constitutional matter. Issue
Yes.
of police generally is a constitutional matter.
Mm.
So it's anything constitutional matter must be referred to legislation for national. It requires proper legislation.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Is there a number? Is there a specific number of policemen that is supposed to, in ratio to the population of a certain country? Is there
No,
anything like that?
there is United Nations
Yes.
standard. There is what we call United Nations standard. I think one policeman equivalent to I can't remember. What is it? Is it 400?
400, 400, sir. 400, sir.
400, yes. I know. I've dealt with those ones a long time ago, since 2011, when I carried out X-ray on police, particularly Nigerian police force. So
One,
I could
one
remember it's
policeman.
about 1 to 400.
So,
I think. So, but anyway, the Nigerian police issue.
Prof, sir. Prof, sir.
Wait. Nigerian police issue is more than an individual issue. You get my point? Because if honestly, whether you like it or not, me personally, I will tell you that more than 60% police force are attached to individuals, to the detriment of the general population. So we are not even talking about VIPs now. We are talking about all kind of human beings. There was a time, I could remember about 7 or 8 years back, when they introduced this issue of what? Special Protection Unit, SPU. So then it was, I don't know at what rank he retired, Abdul Majid. He was AIG then. AIG in charge of Special Protection Unit. And I realized that there are a lot of shady people that will go and buy Hilux, back and front, carry jeeps, and you see them with police and other this thing, and nobody's stopping them. So I could remember I met him. I said, what is the answer he gave me? That, look, every citizen has right for police protection to apply for. So, you see, from there, I know that there is nothing much that can be done, because already he's trying to cut a law for me. So, and that is generally all of us in this Nigeria. We hide under law and do what we want to do. Because I cannot imagine you go to a city, maybe a local government headquarters, you meet 15, the whole local government, you meet 15 police, then one single individual is having 7 to 10 police, only an individual. is going to take care of the other citizens? So our country, we are the problem of this country, each and every one of us. And unfortunately, we are not ready for change in this country. I've never seen people that are so, selfish like we Nigerians. So, sorry, that is what I just wanted to mention about the aspect of police, whether we are under police or whatever. And I want to believe my own, even if they allow state police to come in, it's the same issue. The same politicians, the same criminals will go and hire them. Class, I'm listening.
Okay, sir.
Any further question, comment, observation?
So are we going to have reading materials for this course? Because this is my first time, sir.
And that is your own now. Who will stop you from coming to the class?
No, I mean, I'm just starting. I'm starting afresh. That's what I'm saying. I'm not a continuing student.
You say? Huh? But
I'm
we started this program started about how many months now?
Yes, as a new student, sir.
Eto, we will give him. I'll give you a course out. I'll develop a course outline and give it to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
No observation, no this thing. I talked about my experience with police, and nobody is willing to respond.
I like you respond to that, sir, if I have your permission, sir.
Go respond now. Why not? Why not?
Okay.
It's our country now, so we have to talk about it.
I had the privilege of reviewing democratic policing and constitutional policing this morning.
Okay.
I wanted to know, like I said, practical, what is the problem with our manpower? I want to say that I am privileged all my life since I was born to date. I'm approaching 50 years. I've lived and I've worked in the police environment. I saw my father being a policeman, and I saw him retire, and I choose to take up the career. But I think practically, sir, the police cannot employ more than it needs to power everywhere. Like the United Nations said, 1 to 4. In Nigeria, the population say 260 million approximately, and we have less than 250,000 policemen.
Well, officially, you people say we have a 375.
Well,
74. 374.
But I think what we are suffering in Nigeria is visibility policing. There is not like when I was a young officer, sir. The person who mentored me to this is an assistant inspector general of police. And I went to his office recently and I told him, I said, sir, the problem is that we have lazy officers who don't want to work, who want to sleep. As a young officer, I worked day and night to make sure my environment was well policed. If the federal government, those of us who are privileged to be speaking to strategic officers, visibility policing is lacking. For those of us who live in the federal capital territory, if it is 1 to 6 o'clock, most policemen, everybody withdraw to the base because you don't know what those boys are carrying. So the government should assist with enough manpowers and equipment so that there will be visibility policing. In Nigeria, we lack visibility policing. And once there is no visibility policing, the crime rate will increase. I could remember when President Obasanjo said, give me 40,000 police this year, give me 40,000 police next year. In 4 years, he was able to generate 160,000 police. Everywhere police was flooded. Were flooded everywhere, both in the barracks and outside the barracks. For you to commit crime became very problematic. But thereafter again, the politicians came and said, we don't even have the money to pay salaries. That if you recruit 100,000 policemen now, those who are experienced, in fact, some of them will even, after 5 or 6 years, they pack their document and go abroad. I think we have a crisis. We have a national crisis where the government need to say, if you are in the police, you must serve the police for 10 years before you take an exit. I'm telling you practically what is on the feed. Somebody comes to the police force as a commission officer. He has police immunity. He goes to the embassy, get international get travel document, and he exits the job. Whether at lower level, at the commissioner level, at the CSP level, this is what we are suffering. I can also tell you again, sir. It is not that we don't have the tools and intelligence in the police to fight this insecurity or whatsoever. You will always meet what I call reactive measure. I invited a friend, a brother and a friend who is in the other service, DSS, and we're comparing notes. And he told me, said, House is even better in the force. They in this other side, they cannot do anything. That even if you say this thing is going to happen, somebody will throw deaf ears to it. And I don't know what we need to talk to our strategic managers again. Okay, if you look at Nigeria now, everywhere is so calm. It is not an electionary year. By June of this year, you look at everywhere will be tensed up. You tell policeman, go here, go here, go here, go here. The will, we have a problem with our will in the country. State police, we've been privileged to work at federal level in various states. Some governors will tell you that you should go out of their states, that you are following opposition parties. Some governors will deliberately take your name. To our strategic managers, that I want to state we are in the class. I work in the South in Bayelsa. While we were there, I was an aggressive patrolman. Later on, I was brought into the office. Because I was a patrolman, people gave me their phone number. We're fighting crime. One day, crisis happened. They said APC, PDP, and our name was taken to First Secretary. And I said we left Bayelsa 2016. In September, since we left Bayelsa till today, there have been crises. Because the governor then said, we are following APC. So we have a crisis that every policeman, security is managing. It's window dressing. If you go to where a bunker is busting a pipe now, you go there, you are arresting that bunker. A rear admiral will call you from the headquarters that is it your father's pipeline that is broken. Leave that place. So we have crises that we cannot say as it is because we are in the class, we are saying this because a lot of officers go for policy courses, strategic management course, and they write memo. Is it implementable? It is not. Okay, the other day they removed the commissioner of police. People were traveling with gun. They said they killed them. Is it the commissioner of police that will leave over 150 kilometers to go and police that place? He has a DPO, he has an area commander. But those are the strategic management. He should leave that place. It's not a making. A commissioner of police was in Benin. They were a police station attack in Aganabode. You say the commissioner of police should leave. If there is visibility policing, if the policemen have the capacity to deploy helicopter, drone, we won't have this crisis. One of our very fine officer is in detention. Yesterday, they called say he should come and talk about the cocaine. Okay, it is because we are in the proc, we are in the class. I have the privilege of interacting with him.
All what you are talking about.
I have the privilege of interacting with him one-on-one as a big brother and as a friend, as a professional colleague. And I told him to keep the lips because By the time he begin to mention those who have those drugs, it will breach national security.
Mm.
And I can tell you for real, a strategic manager told us recently that he brought all those intelligence to the table and said, look at this thing that is coming to Nigeria. What do we do to advert it? The strategic manager said, let it come in. And only for him to go into it and say, I want to advert this thing from coming to Nigeria. The strategic managers, they left him in crisis. So we have a problem, state policing. Everybody says it will not work. How many state governors have donated barracks since the past 25 years? Donated a barrack that can accommodate 5,000 policemen. Let the welfare of the people be the final law. And what is the final law? It is the security. It is you and I, myself, who is a policeman. We have many things to deal with here. My colleague said, if you look at the election, they are rigging. They take a policeman to keep his eyes away. You go to one policeman to a polling unit, 1,200, and talks come there with gun. What will two policemen do without gun? He will only be begging them. It has his mercy. That is why I said field operations, sir, is extremely different from academics. I'm speaking for myself. That is why I said those of us who are on this side of it, we heavily use our discretion. Because if anything happens to you, your family will suffer. We are like what is on a police shoulder, Nigerian police force, nothing past food. We're all in this job to have a career and feed our family. Anything you want to do, you manage yourself. And even investigation, you say a bank, a board of a bank will launder money, and you are investigating that case. Prof, I cannot tell you, sir. Somebody will tell you should bring the case file and go away. Will you argue with your superior? So there are terrible situations that we cannot begin to say. That is why when we take lectures, I used to tell those of us who may not be privileged to be in the real sector of security that it is two different ways. You cannot tell me now that Emefiele is having crisis. The DSS is investigating printing of currency. Where is the police? Did they allow the police to participate in the investigation? When he brought up those EDD machine, was the police aware? Was it not the custom that brought those equipment in? When those equipment got to national meeting and printing, was anybody aware? The plate of the money, is it not a security document? Okay, you are changing currency. Where is the old one you destroy? You only change color, and we are all in crisis. And tomorrow we say, strategic manager will say, leave that matter. Don't get involved. Recently, I don't know where it happened. They say an AIG was discussing, and he mentioned River State. And the next thing they said, it should be removed. So practically, everybody is very careful on the job, sir. I don't know whether I've been able to clear this. State police in Nigeria cannot work for now because a commissioner of police, sir, cannot deploy helicopter. If in Abuja now, there is a heavy crime. Abuja is bounded by Niger State, 60 kilometers. On the flank, on the local Abuja highway. If there is a crisis, he has to beg the Inspector General of Police and the NSA to give him permission to deploy a helicopter. Drone, as you are now. If you are in Kano State, sir, for example now, somebody's in Kano State, they say, Bashiga, you fly drone over people's house. People will say you are looking at their house. The culture and police, everything is entirely different. But when we go out of our country, they say we are doing well. Our law is not friendly. The idea is not friendly. Thank you very much.
Let us not don't dominate the whole this thing. You have already made your point. That is just one side of the coin that you have been talking about, because all what you are saying still has to do with partly institutional problem. But like I always used to say, issue of security is far, far beyond what we are looking at. Honestly, if truly we want to address insecurity, we must go back to the root causes and address while we are intervening. These are all intervention, which is always good because you need system to be stabilized before you deploy the real security solution. But we'll get chance and time to look at more about security Because honestly, part of our major undoing is for lack of understanding what is even security from the real security perspective. So, as students of security and strategic studies, honestly, we should be able to understand security. Then it is from there, then we'll be able to see plainly, all these things we are talking about. So it's good to intervene, but it's more important to deploy the real security solution so that it will be able to, at least assist in enhancing our national security. So I think we can stop here for today. Or
Thank
any
you,
other
sir.
or any
Thank you, sir.
other
sir.
contribution from somebody?
Uh,
No, sir.
No.
If we want to talk about insecurity, we will sleep here because
I know.
insecurity insecurity in Nigeria is somebody's office.
Mm.
People gain income from that insecurity.
Yeah.
Because we have law enforcement agents
Mm.
around the border of Nigeria.
Mm.
We have law enforcement agents on the road checking
Mm.
day in, day out.
Mm.
These arms and ammunitions that normally go around for destruction of our societies, they have companies that produce those arms.
Yes.
How are those arms moving from one place to the other? And we have intelligent agencies.
Around. Mm.
Yes, and if you look at the police themselves, the personnel themselves, they are not
Mm.
happy
Mm.
because the policeman is not living well, he's not eating
Yeah.
well.
Mm.
The families are not doing well. The
Yeah.
children are not going to a good school.
Mm.
And then you expect this man to submit his life to danger?
Mm.
So a lot of things when it comes to insecurity, and then the job is not even given to those who have passion for the job.
Yeah. Mm. It's true.
Like myself, I went for recruitment more than 5 times.
Mm.
But since I was not having a political leader to stand for me, I was unable to secure a military or law enforcement job. So these jobs are being given to people who just want to go there to make income.
Mm.
How can they work effectively? So we have a lot of problems to
Mm.
solve.
Mm. Yeah.
Insecurity is somebody's office.
Mm.
When the country gets to a level, they can address the insecurity issues from the grassroots.
Yes. Once you address those root causes, the whole of these things you people are talking, you and then the last speaker, they will all naturally disappear. Honestly,
Yes, sir.
they will naturally disappear.
Yes,
So as long as we don't address those things, like I said, we'll still just be doing cosmetics. So thank you so much. So up
welcome,
to
sir.
now, I've not received the list of the students. Is the classmate there?
As soon as you will receive it, we are going to compare everything and send to you, sir.
Okay, I'm waiting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we
Thank you,
meet
sir.
next
thank
week.
you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you, sir.
well done.
Thank you, sir.